Um, Good morning, everyone. So as Richard's mentioned, and for those of you that don't know me, my name is Matt Pullinger, and I am the Industry Liaison Officer for Green Tech South. So my role is to find SMEs to apply for the ERDF grant funding that's available through the Emphasise project. But I'm just helping out today just to kind of answer some frequently asked questions surrounding the ERDF guidelines when applying for the grant funding. So I work closely with the companies that are applying for the funding. We offer support during the application process, as well as preparation and coaching towards the project selection panels, like Richard's previously mentioned. Been doing this now for around 9 months. So just going to cover off some of the questions that frequently pop up during the process. So first of all, eligibility of businesses looking to apply. So the funding is available to all companies that fit into the EU's definition of an SME. So an SME is defined as any company with more than 250 members of staff, annual turnover of less than 50 million euros, or a balance sheet of no more than 43 million euros. It's important to note here that these ceilings apply to the figures for individual firms only, and any firm that is part of a larger group may need to include their staff, headcount, turnover, or balance sheet data from the group too. It's also worth noting that charities are eligible as long as they're involved in economic activities. So economic activities is defined as the activity of making, providing, purchasing, or selling goods or services. So ERDF and state aid. All the business support that is provided through the low carbon solent project is either under the de minimis or the GBA 28 scheme. So de minimis covers the grant amount that's provided through the ERDF project, and as stated on the slide, cannot exceed 200,000 euros over a 3-year rolling period. Whereas the GBA 28 covers the free innovation support offered by the project team whilst working through the R&D process. The GBA 28 support is also capped 200,000 euros over the 3 years. And although this support is free to the business, it is funding through the company's allowance. Therefore, checks will need to be made during the initial application process that any funding that is being sought and awarded will not take the applicant over these thresholds. The purpose of these limits, as it says, are purely based on the Commission's view that these small amounts of aid are unlikely to distort the market. So project procurement, ERDF funding does come with an element of paperwork, for those who know, and certain processes that must be followed to ensure the funding awarded is eligible. Project procurement is one of those processes and can differ in complexity depending on the individual project requirements and costs. So I just want to run through the key elements that's listed here on the slide. First of all, awards of any goods, services, or works to be undertaken awarded to suppliers that are under £2,499 can be left to the project manager's discretion, but we do strongly recommend to secure a minimum of 3 competitive quotes for each piece of work required in order to support each application. Awards for any goods, services, or works between 2,500 and 25,000 must have a minimum of 3 competitive quotes, again received from potential suppliers and provided in evidence to support your application. And then finally, any awards up to £25,000 must be advertised on a suitable website. So, for example, the company's own website, or we also offer this service through the Green Tech South website. So it must be advertised for a minimum of 10 days, and this allows for all potential suppliers to provide quotes for the work. This also includes work that's awarded to one supplier, which totals more than £25,000 cumulatively. And it's worth noting here that the final decision of which quotation is chosen is entirely the decision of the grant applicant. Does not necessarily need to be the cheapest quote received, but they will have to provide justification as to why that particular quote has been accepted over the others. Project selection. I just want to add on the previous slide actually that low carbon solent project team will be on hand during the procurement process to offer support and guidance to ensure that the strict ERDF guidelines have been met prior to continuing on with the application process. So project selection, once the application has been received and checked to ensure it is ERDF compliant, the applicant will be invited to present their innovation business plan to our panel of independent experts, who will then decide whether to award the grant funding or not. The panel is made up of university academics, angel investors, and local business representatives, and they will be looking to score each application, the presentation and the following Q&A session out of 11 key areas. Now these areas can include clean growth credentials, market accessibility, competitive analysis, IP status, amongst others. And once again, the LCS team will be on hand to offer support and coaching to all applicants to help prepare for the presentations, and also be on hand following the session to provide valuable feedback towards applicants. Now, from my previous experience, this feedback is extremely valuable, as it can either help to improve the success of the project moving forward or help to reshape another bid if unsuccessful. So my final slide, not that one. That one, right. There we go. My final slide kind of mirrors Richard's one from earlier, but this one is based on the grant funding process. And it's similar to Richard's, the first step is to complete the expression of interest form or make direct contact with the Green Tech South team. Once that's been done, a few application forms are required to be completed to ensure the eligibility, as mentioned before, as well as the procurement assessment report, which will cover all project costs. When these are all completed and signed off by the relevant parties, the next step will be the project selection panel. So if successful at the panel, a grant funding agreement will be devised, and that's devised from the agreed project costs and will be sent out to applicants for review to be returned once agreed and signed. And then the grant of 36% of the total project costs will be paid out once the project is completed, but evidence will be needed to show that all suppliers and knowledge bases have been reimbursed. So today, I really hope that this has helped to address some questions or concerns that people may have had. I'm going to hand back over to Chloe now to kind of open the floor up for more questions.